We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
When you're talking about phones using AI, first off, they already are. Okay, these are already AI machines. And if you have AI tied to an AV system in your conference rooms and it's constantly listening, gathering information, how is that information going to be used?
Who's watching the watcher? Who's listening to the listener?
We knew that we had to monitor our enemies. We also come to realize that we need to monitor the people who are monitoring them.
Well, who's going to monitor the monitors of the monitors?
Where does your AV gear come from? AI embedded AV and certified in all the video conferencing systems. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 648, recorded Friday, January 19th, 2024. Who watches the watcher? This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and information for the AV industry. My name is Tim Van Woeart. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, from Parts Unknown, Dawn Meade. Welcome, ma'am. Thanks
for having me, Tim. It's wonderful to be back this year on AV Week.
Yeah, we say Parts Unknown. Technically, Dawn is in the Maryland area, but we just can't say where she works. Somebody we can say where she works is Cassie Berger from Shure. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And last but not least, a young man who had me on his show, the poor guy, Tim Van Woeart from Rutgers. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you for having me, Tim. Always a pleasure to be here and now to be on your show, which is definitely a highlight for me.
Well, it was a highlight for me too, and plus we got to be on with Joe Way. It was the Christmas episode of the AV Live, so you can go and check that out wherever you find your podcast. It was a fun show.
Yeah, well, it definitely was, and like I said, it was great having you too. Like, it was a long time coming.
And I got to wear a Blues jersey for the Devils fan.
Yeah, you did. I almost put on my jersey for today. I was like, oh, I should do that.
All right. First story comes to us from Shure. Really quickly, Shure is a sponsor, and not to be silly, but Cassie works for Shure. Shure has announced that that they have achieved official certification from Google Meet, the company's Microflex advanced ceiling array microphones and USB audio interface now carries the Works with Google quote-unquote seal of approval. According to Shure, the integrations ensure reliable, flexible, and consistent audio for hybrid meetings. Shure said the certifications were critical for seamless conferencing and collaboration with leading unified communications platform like Google Meet. Dawn, I'm going to start with you on this. Google Meet, I'm going to say, and this is Tim's opinion, right? And Tim's opinion is based, Tim Albright's opinion, there's too many Tims here. Albright's opinion based on industry data. Google's number 3, right? You got Zoom, you got Teams. We can fight about who's 1 and 2. Google's number 3. How many certifications do we expect microphone manufacturers, camera manufacturers, and all of these folks to have? Do we expect the big 3? Do we expect the big 2? Do we expect all 257 video soft codecs? How many certifications do we expect?
Well, it's like this, in my opinion, and this is, again, just Dawn's opinion, I don't expect necessarily any of them from the microphone manufacturers, because if a product works, it works. If it's proven not to work, it doesn't work. It's one of those things that's neat to have and makes me feel a little bit better about picking them, saying that, okay, somebody already tested them and they're guaranteed to work. But just because they're guaranteed to work doesn't mean they're going to be guaranteed to work in my environment with my version of whatever platform we're using, because depending on your vertical, some verticals, you can't use the same platform as the rest of the known world. And our networks are on much more secure lockdown kind of things. And things that work perfectly well in the normal world do not work in our world. So I don't necessarily go and say I am buying them strictly because they have that certification. It's a good shorthand. It tells me that it's been tested and should work. And if it doesn't work, then it's just the vagaries of the bizarre whatever world I'm living in. Or somebody set it up wrong. So, I mean, if I were still in the private sector, I would absolutely say, at least the big 3. I wouldn't go much beyond that. But for my purposes, as long as it works, it works. And between you and me and Cassie, we use the hell out of those MXAs. So,
All right. Van Woeart, same question. When it comes to higher education or just your experience in general, how many certifications, how many soft codecs do you expect the manufacturers, whether it's camera, microphones, or whatever, that are attaching to these soft codecs? How many certifications do you expect them to go through?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I kind of echo what Dawn says, is that, if it works, it works. And especially when we're in my vertical, in the higher ed vertical, like it's going to vary from university to college to community college, and it's all going to matter for their networks. A lot of our networks are older, less secure, or more secure, depending on who you got. And budgetarily, it also matters too. But yes, it's a nice to have type of thing. And to put a little bit of another spin on it, I like having certifications from like outside groups that are not of those. Like, fine, it's good to say Zoom certified, or we're talking about Google Meet. Those are nice, but like a HETMA approved seal of approval is nice too. And yeah, I did that, Tim. I made a plug. But having those like kind of like outside groups have that seal of approval is also nice. I think the individual soft codec approvals are nice for organizations that maybe they don't have the depth of AV professionals that some of us do. Like maybe for some higher ed institutions, it's nice because maybe they're a Zoom campus and they know it's going to work with that. And they don't have the AV team. Like, I'm an in-house integrator, as we like to say. I have the team, I have the knowledge base to be able to make the other pieces work. But if, I'm IT director and I'm the sole show runner, and I don't have all the expertise, if I know the Shure product's going to work with my Zoom room, then off I go. I'm going to go down that road because it has that seal of approval and it makes it easy.
Before I get to Cassie, really quickly, for both Tim and Dawn, it has been said to me by a number of manufacturers, not Shure, not Cassie, so letting her off the hook on this one. The first two certifications, I haven't gotten anybody to give me an official word on Google Meet certification, but to get Zoom certified, as of 6 months ago, it was you write a check and you send an email and boom, you're certified, right? I'm simplifying it here, kids, but that literally is it. Microsoft, they want your firstborn, they want the product in-house, they want to run it through the rigors. So I would give a little bit more credence if it's Microsoft Teams certified, right? It's going to work with I know these folks take it to Washington and they put it in their rooms and they run it through the ringer to make sure it works. And if it doesn't, then they send it back to the manufacturer and they kind of get together and collaborate. Google, I have no vision of as of this recording because I don't know a whole lot of people that have put it through Google Meet. So each certification is different, and to play off of what Tim said, HETMA certification is not you write a check and you send an email to HETMA. HETMA is you send them the stuff and they put it through the ringer, right?
Yep. And then we also send back and tell you what you did wrong. And I will say manufacturers have been very good about fixing the things that we've sent back. So
Cassie, a little bit different take on this, since you guys are the ones that had this. Why should users care, right? You've got two end users here. You've got several listening here. Why should users care about the Google Meet certification if they don't use Google Meet?
Users should care that the manufacturer is taking the appropriate steps to get certified to build strategic partnerships. I think to the end user, it tells them that they can hopefully feel confident in using our solutions since we've taken these steps and built these partnerships. So it's hopefully a bit of a peace of mind. It separates us from competitors, hopefully in some sense. And I think the overall user experience that they can expect is improved. So that's kind of gives them a better experience using our devices, knowing that there is some level of security.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I'm not, saying this because Cassie's here. Shure is one of the few that have come forward and said, hey, we are Google Meet certified, right? Again, I would say that it's a top three. You start getting into I have yet to see, and somebody is feel free to correct me here. I have yet to see like a WebEx certified device or a PEXIP certified device.
Well, I will say that I've been based on, because we're a Cisco campus. The experience is that if you're using WebEx, you're using with Cisco products. Like they're not into. That's just my observation. Is that, and again, this is the other Tim's opinion. They very much want you to stay within the Cisco environment. So I don't think they're looking to get that certification for the software piece, because they just want you to stay in their bubble.
Really quickly, now that they are opening up very slowly the Zoom environment, right, with Cisco products, I am going to be interested to see how that plays out, because you're right, Tim. If you're in WebEx, they expect you to use Cisco gear, but as they're bringing in Zoom, I am going to be very interested to see how they play with that. So.
Yeah, it's been a slow process with anything coming from Cisco. And again, my opinion, my observations. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers here, but that's just been the observation, is that you request things and things take time, and and they're a corporate company. That's
Yeah.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on AVNation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Huge numbers. All right. Next story comes to us from our friends at Samsung. Samsung AI phones. Give me a second here. There's a reason I'm bringing this up. Samsung announced this week that Samsung smartphones, easy for me to say, with enhanced artificial intelligence capabilities. I announced it this week at its Galaxy Unpacked event. The Korean tech giant said that their new Galaxy AI, put that in quotes, will integrate AI features more deeply than ever before into any mobile experience. The smart gadgets like the Rabbit R1 Assistant attracting huge pre-orders coming out of CES. Samsung will be hoping to demonstrate that AI can meaningfully boost productivity and reduce phone tapping tedium for its Android faithful. Tim, we'll start with you on this. Not talking about smartphones here, but AI embedded in general. Where do we see AI being used in AV gear, in products coming down the pipeline?
I mean, I can see AI being used in almost an online, like a cloud-based, like keeping tabs on your technology and things like that. Like, I see this as an opportunity to say, hey, okay, this projector is offline, or like this one's been left on. Let me shut it off after, I'm a little bit more advanced than just your standard no signal shut off. But it's like, oh, somebody turned on the projector at midnight. There are no classes scheduled in there. Let's shoot this down, and let's lock it up until 8:30 in the morning when the next class is supposed to be. Because I mean, that's an advantage I would see for like a higher ed vertical piece. Because there's been so many times we've seen that XYZ student is logged into a podium at 1:00 in the morning, and they're blasting Top Gun on the projectors, and they're blowing out our speakers because they can get into a classroom and do that.
Or the security guys are watching Maury at 2:00 in the morning. Not that ever happened to me at the college I worked for.
Or whatever. Yeah, whatever else may be shown appropriate or not on the screens. But yeah, I see it more for the monitoring piece, and maybe more of a anticipation of faculty needs as they walk into a space. I mean, we could definitely utilize it in that respect. And I know a lot of universities have started to use voice activated type systems to be able to do that, and to be able to set up the room in the way that the faculty enjoys. But if that could be something that could be learned over a semester or over multiple years of a faculty member teaching, that would be invaluable information.
All right. Cassie, same question is, where do you see AI being embedded into gear? I'm not going to ask you to break any NDAs or tell us anything that Shure hasn't coming down the pipeline, but overarching, right, in the industry.
I think we're going to see it pop up all over the place, but we have to differentiate between what type of AI you're talking about. If you're talking about generative AI that's actually creating content, or you're talking about AI that's collecting data and using that data to output and help assist in either design or room configuration, turning rooms on, that type of thing. So the question is more, where do I see AI everywhere, but where do I see generative AI? Fewer places. And I think the question we're going to have to ask is how we can monitor security in this instance. How do we look at clean data being put into AI so we get clean data out of AI? Because before you start using AI provided information, you got to make sure it's clean going in. It's the right data that we're collecting, because it's only as good as what we give it.
So really quickly, before I get to Dawn, Cassie, you mentioned something that's very important there. How do we verify that, or how do we make sure of that? Is that incumbent on the company that's making the products to make sure that the data is clean, the data is accurate? Or is that incumbent on the dealer? Is that incumbent on the user? Who is responsible for it in that chain, do you see?
Well, that's the question, right? And there's no regulations in place right now that can watch that can protect it, that can monitor it. So when you're talking about phones using AI, first off, they already are. Okay, these are already AI machines. So I don't know if we're cashing in on making it a bigger thing than people realize it is already, but it can be used. It's going to be used in a lot of ways, and security needs to be of utmost importance here, especially when it comes to AV and who owns the data. We need to figure that out as well. Who owns that data? Where is it protected? Because it can be used in every way. And if you have AI tied to an AV system in your conference rooms and it's constantly listening, gathering information, how is that information going to be used?
All right, Dawn, Cassie actually just set up my next question very, very nicely. What are the drawbacks of implementing AI into AV gear?
Well, I mean, like she said, security is a huge one. Knowing when things are thinking or listening or taking care of, I was going to say for my world, we're in a very strange space because on the one hand, anything AI that thinks for itself that we can't like examine and vet, we don't like. On the other hand, we are pushing the envelope constantly as a company in putting AI into products that we make, for instance, or making chips that allow AI, or researching the security and beefing up that. I mean, we have entire thousands of people that work for us that work on cybersecurity and security issues. So we're kind of in that weird space that what we can get away with putting it in our own spaces is different from what we may be incorporating and using in customer spaces or worldwide spaces as we go. Purely from an AV front, Cassie did say it, it's all about the security. It's all about making sure we can maybe turn it off, turn it on, or restrict its limits so that we can, or even just go in and read the data that it's collected and how it's thinking before we can either shut it down or encourage it, But like Tim said, it can be very useful for some of the monitoring, some of the tracking. If you're in a company like ours where you have tens of thousands of people as employees and a dozen AV people for the corporation, we're a little bit overworked. So if we have something that's a tool that can sit there and say, this is how the company wants rooms to operate, let's make it operate at that base level, and we'll bring the techs in to fix physical real world things or things that are outside of this usual, that frees up a lot of our time to do things like that, where the computer can integrate some of the already existing macros and self-healing that some of our monitoring systems are incorporating these days, put in that AI element on top of it and allow the AI to learn, hey, this is so-and-so's conference room, and they're at their voice, they prefer the volume at this, they prefer this lighting, they prefer, without having to sit there and attach it to a key fob the way we did with some of the control systems in the past or something like that. So I see a lot of promise. I know right now our very, very small AV team loves some of the cameras and some of the steerable mics that incorporate AI that don't require one of us to drop everything we're doing and go babysit a meeting to switch cameras or to, dumb down the switching of cameras from camera A to B or however using presets. If we have a computer that learns how to do that and can do it well, that's going to save us so much time. And frankly, at the rate we hire people, it's not like we're taking anyone's job because they're just not hiring anyone for them. So yeah, I think it has a lot of promise. There are just, like the security concerns and who's watching the watcher, who's listening to the listener.
Ooh, I like that. All right. Final story. A10 and Netgear are joining forces on AV streaming. A10, the Taiwan-based manufacturer of connectivity gear, has announced a partnership with Netgear to develop combined solutions for streaming audiovisual content over IP networks. Collaboration aims to simplify the deployment of digital signage, control rooms, other applications by integrating their expertise across software, switching, and transmission. A10's trumpeted benefits like stable performance, easy management tools, and the backing of both firms' global service networks. The deal originated in Taiwan between Netgear's local distributor and A10, but the firms plan to take the solutions global to meet rising demand for AV over IP. Cassie, I'm going to start with you. And here's the thing. A10 is a Taiwan-based company. They're partnering with a U.S.-based company. I will start here. This is not a political discussion, right? Taiwan has got its own issues, and it's in the midst of geopolitical hubbub. Not the place for this conversation, all right? However, it does beg the question. You've got a university person here, and you got somebody that works very, very close to Washington, D.C., and that's where the Department of Defense and other government places. When you're talking to your customers, Cassie, and you're talking to the end users, how important is it where your products are made or where the HQ is for the company of origin?
I mean, you're talking about an industry where many manufacturers manufacture overseas, whether it's Asia, whether it's in Mexico. And honestly, I think it's less relevant as we focus more on the technology and strategic partnerships like we talked about earlier. I think as long as the products communicate and operate the way that we anticipate them to, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. It needs to be TAA compliant. That's a big question we get, is which products are TAA compliant. And as long as they check certain boxes for certain applications and requirements, then they care more about the ease of use, the deployment, how the solution works, and less where it's built or where that partnership was established. But, it will put limitations, I'm sure, on government applications and on some education applications. So that's going to be a consideration. And I'd be curious to see what other manufacturers with similar products and similar solutions introduce in the next 2 years in alignment.
All right, Dawn, you're sitting at a crossroads here, both as an integrator as well as an end user. How important is it? TIA compliance, certainly, but other factors work in as well. How important is it where the company is or where the product is being made?
Phenomenally, wildly beyond importance. It is basically one of the number one considerations. One of the first things we do when we get new products to be approved for use at our company, we need, are you TAA compliant? Do you have country of origin certifications? In the case of at least one manufacturer that we're friendly with, that we've worked with at AVNation over the years, half of their products are made in their country, half of their products are made in China. I had to get a SKU listing of every product that they made and which country it's from to know, can I use this switcher here or can I not use this switcher? So we can use about 4/9 of their product line or something like that. Like, we can't really use everything that they have. And if they don't have something that we can use in a particular space, and the other question is, how secure of a requirement do you have? Some of my spaces, we can use almost anything. You can almost, but not, go to Walmart and pick up a display and use it in some of our spaces. Other spaces, oh my goodness, you have to build it in the building to be able to use it in there. So, there's a lot of considerations we require. all of the vendors that work with us, they're used to filling out scads of paperwork. I'm constantly bothering them and, quizzing people at length at Infocom. Where are you? Where are you from? Who owns you? Who are you partners with? Who? At one point we actually had, and this was before I worked where I work now, when I was just an integrator in the greater DC area, we had a customer asking us what shipping company was used from the display manufacturer because their federal requirements wanted to make sure they were in compliance with the anti-human trafficking measures that were put into place.
Wow.
So I had to call up the company, be like, what shipping company do you use? Or do they adhere to DFAR, blah, blah, blah. And there was just crickets on the phone. So it's especially in the DC area like I am, you will get all kinds of crazy questions. But short version, I'm excited for A10. They're great guys. I would love to see the expanded or the improved product lines that are coming from this little merger, this partnership. But I would also need a very detailed listing of what is made where and if it is approved before I can use it in most of my spaces.
Really quick side question on this, Dawn, or follow-up. Is it simply country of origin where the product is manufactured, or is it also the country of origin for the chipsets that are being put into the products?
So this is a question I actually get a lot, believe it or not. And the answer is it depends. We can have things that go through our complete vetting process for the company overall, but if a specific customer of ours or a specific program or a specific building requirement for what they're doing in this little tiny spot has more stringent standards, we could have something that's approved for use every other place in our company, but we can't use it there because it doesn't meet their at this point, I'm looking for options that don't even use HDMI. People want, I think it's DVI because, or something, because that's not proven to leak data out that ends they read some scientific stuff. I kid you not, when some of these customers, they go a little overboard, but.
All right. Van Woeart, you'll have the last word on this. How important it is in the world of higher education when it comes to where this stuff is made, where the headquarters is for the companies that oversee them?
I was gonna say, so it's from my perspective, it doesn't really matter, honestly.
Okay.
We've been burned, and I'm not going to mention the manufacturer, but I think everyone knows when it came to security problems with certain network switches, we did get burned on that once, but in all integrations and stuff like that we've done across various campuses over the years, it doesn't really matter. Now, having a partnership with a US-based company does provide a little bit of comfort. Netgear, which we've been a proud supporter of Netgear over the years for their network switches, aside from that one project that we got burned on. It's you have a solid company in that, and then A10 has their own foot already in the door as well. So you're talking two reputable companies that, I feel like that there would not be a concern in that area. But having said that too, there are definitely grants and different qualifications that do depend on that level of detailed as to where does the technology come from. It's like some courses, like if it's an ROTC or something like that, they cannot happen in a room that has certain product in it. So there's definitely very specific instances, but for the most part, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. And we just want a solid product that works, that can hold up to a 5 to 7+ year life cycle. And, that's really what I'm after.
All righty. Good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Dawn Meade, again, can't say where she works, but how can people get a hold of you or connected with you if they can still do that, Ms. Meade?
They can always find me on all of the socials at AVDawn. You can find me on AVNation as much as Tim and the gang will let me show up these days. And I know ISC is only in a couple of days. I will not be there, sadly. However, it's never too early to start plugging Infocom. And rumor has it I will be working on quite a few classes, or at least, being a presence at the show this year. So if I don't find you first, find me at the show, and I'd love to chat.
All right, very good. Cassie Berger, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or Shure?
You can always visit our website, Shure.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Cassie Berger. You can shoot me an email at burgerc@Shure.com. And I will not be at ISC. I will be at NAMM, as well as NSCA and a few other events, and definitely InfoCon. So come find me at the booth.
All right, very good. Mr. Van Woeart, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you?
All right. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Tim Van Woeart. You could also find me on Twitter at T Van Woeart. You can also find me on the AV Life podcast, where I am the host. And that could be www.theavlife.com, which also is higheredav.com. So you can find me there every week. We have our podcast. I'm also a proud member of HETMA, so that's why I brought that up earlier, the Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance. So that's a mouthful. That's why we like HETMA. And we've got a couple of things coming up as well. HETMA as an organization will be at ISE, so you can find us out there. Find Joe Way and Aaron Ma Moran and all of our fun crew out there. And you can find us at hetma.org. And for all of the higher education folks that are out there, it's a free organization to join in. And we also have a great program with Aurora right now. They have generously donated $6.6 million worth of equipment that we are helping to distribute to institutions in need in the United States area. So look at higheredav.com for that information. We also have our PRISM scholarship as part of our DEI initiative. So if you are in higher ed and you fall into those categories and you're looking for AVIXA training, CTS training, please apply. We will be giving out 10 scholarships for that. It also includes a trip to InfoComm, where I will be at that. So, just there's a lot of stuff going on, Tim. I could take up a whole show of yours just talking about what we're doing. So
it's a lot of good stuff, though. So yeah, we'll miss Mr. Van Woeart, but we'll get to hang out with your HETMA comrades in Barcelona. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on the Twitters or LinkedIn or any place else. It's not very interesting. We go by the website, if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including Aaron Moran's EdTech program. A couple cool things happening immediately. Actually, as we're recording this, first and foremost, we come up with a new program at AVNation called AVNation Icons. Britt Yenzer from Moravian University. She's our first icon. So you can go right now and go check out the great article. I didn't write it, so I can say it's great, that we put up about her. A couple cool pictures. I know that James King is coming down the pipeline because I got to take his picture in Vegas while I was out there for CES. Some really, really great folks coming down the pipeline. So we'll do once a month, but check out AVNation Icons on the website. Also, the AVNation Reader's Choice Awards is happening currently as we speak. It is the last week. It ends at 9:00 Central, as long as I figure out the time zone, because I'm the one that has to turn it off. 9:00 Central PM on the 31st of January. I will be in Barcelona. I got to figure out how to turn it off, but I'll figure that out. Shure is up for an award still. There's a lot of great folks that are up. And we've got a knockdown, drag-out fight in the AVNation AV Person of the Year. Ifat Chaudhry from Involve and from London. She is up against our old friend Chris Netto from AV in the AM. So check that out. Vote, as we say in Illinois, vote early and vote often. But you can vote as many times as you'd like. Just hit Fred. I don't care. I don't care what you do. But yeah, that ends up on the 31st. And speaking of ISE, we are going. We'll be there for the entire week covering the show floor. And of course, since we're going, there is a tweet up on the 30th of January from 4 to 6 CET, so 4 to 6 local time, brought to you by HD Base T and the commercial integrator 40 Under 40. It is at the HD Base T booth, but you can register for that at avnation.tv. So thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.